I'm Julia.
I'm Wesley. Welcome to Sloppy Bookshelf. We're two siblings and musicians in a band called The Fifth House, and we're here to give our support back to the beloved music scene.
As we do, this bookshelf will get sloppier and sloppier with the knickknacks that our musicians bring as we give them our love and support. Today we have Tom Adams and The Last Resort.
Yep. This song is called A Love That Never Was. One, two, three, four. There was darkness of the shadows in the cobwebs of her mind. She went wading through the shallows to see what she could find. But lurking in the water was a beast with ghastly claws. So I'm singing you a sonnet to a love that never was. He was brilliant, he was bashful, he was funny, he was wise, he was thoughtful, he was gentle, he was the apple of her eyes. Then one day he took a rifle and used it just because. Now she's singing me a sonnet to a love that never was. If you're lucky, you can be happy in a world that's free of pain. You might have a lovely family and a life that's right as rain. But when tomorrow brings the sorrow that tomorrow always does, I'll be singing you a sonnet to a love that never was. Yes, I'll be singing you a sonnet to a love that never was. You can't find this online. I just brought in a CD clock. A few years ago set my basement up as a martini lounge, and I found this little CD clock. It's a clock that they made out of a CD, and it says, did anyone say martini? And there's a picture of it on there. Well, I don't drink martinis so much anymore. I drank so many martinis back in the day. For years, I wouldn't touch them. They're gross, right? Then one day, I had one, and it clicked. And not only did I like them, but I'd be driving home from work craving them. Like, I'd literally be salivating, going, oh, the olive juice. Oh,
I love olives.
God, I love it. And I drank so many of them. I mean, responsibly. But over time, I drank so many of them that I got a kidney stone from all the salt.
Oh, no.
So I had to switch to just vodka on the rocks, which, if you have a top shelf vodka, it can be delightful. But it doesn't have that thing. But so I don't drink martinis anymore. I use my martini lounge as a studio and an office. So I figured I'd bring that over as kind of a tribute to my old
drunken days.
There you go.
You know.
Well, it didn't go to waste.
Well, I
We
used to get
appreciate
drunk
that.
with class.
We're here with Tom Adams in The Last Resort. His music is described as blending various musical genres with poetic lyrics to craft songs of dark humor and tender heartbreak. And we're joined today by bassist Mike Pella. So, I heard that you guys are actually, you are a poet, or were a poet, however you want to describe it.
Yeah, I was a poet. I started writing poetry in 1989 at the age of 22, basically because I wanted to do music, but all my friends who did music had graduated and moved on in life, and I was stuck living on West 14th and Clark without a car or a phone or cable, and they didn't even have the internet. So I had nothing to do but sit around trying to figure out ways to be creative, and I couldn't play guitar, so I thought, I'll just write poetry. Actually, I'll tell you real quick, I was listening to a Pink Floyd album, The Final Cut, and I was in love with this girl who didn't even know I existed, and if she knew I existed, probably would have thought I was a little creepy, because I was. So I was listening to this Pink Floyd song, and he says, "And if I open my heart to you, show you my weak side, what would you do?" And he screams, "Would you sell your story to Rolling Stone?" I thought, oh my God, that happened to him. Like, wow, how cool would it be to be able to take something that happened to you and your feelings and like turn it into art and stuff like that. So I wish I could do that. And then a little voice said, well, you can. Start writing. So I literally would spend my entire life for about 2 years writing. I would write on the toilet. I would write on the bus. I would write at work when I wasn't supposed to be. I couldn't stop, and then finally I got halfway decent. So this lasted about 10 years, not the writing constantly, but writing. And in 1999, I formed a performance art project called Trenchcoat Manifesto. And what we did was we blended poetry with music. A rhythmic music and a spoken word, and then also video and slideshows and performance of various types. Well, when that project wound down, I had the bug for music, and I was like, well, what do I do now? I don't want to go with a piece of paper and stand at a bookstore and read poetry anymore. Not that there's anything wrong with that. So I bought a guitar at the tender age of 40. And I bought a little DVD-ROM for my laptop and sat in my car during my lunch hours and taught myself how to play some basic chords.
There you go.
And that's basically how I started that, and started writing songs. And was there another thing I'm supposed to mention? I don't even remember.
No, I mean, that's really cool. I know that a lot of people, it's like they start like, I want to learn guitar, I want to write songs. So I think having started from poetry is a really cool way to get into it.
Yeah, I kind of just fell into it. And to be honest, it's a homecoming for me because it's what I always wanted to do. Since I first heard the Beatles.
Oh, yeah.
Before that, I wanted to be a criminal. But
Well, that's not really legal.
no, but it's good. It's good work.
good living.
And you can
Good
make
money.
a lot of money that way, kids. This song is called "The Crimes I've Committed." 1, 2, 3, 4.
It strikes you like a disease, transmitted through the breeze. At first it feels a little queasy, then it starts to flee. Oh, what a tragic scene, so much suffering. Seems like the whole wide world is burning. It doesn't mean a thing. 3 o'clock in the morning, I'm wide awake in bed, when without any warning, it pops into my head. I've had this sense of belonging since I was just a kid. I'll bare my soul while you're snoring. seven seas, to die here on my knees. The simple life can be so easy, but then you start to bleed. Oh, what a comedy, a puppet on a string. He doesn't know the whole world's burning, it doesn't mean a thing. It's 3 o'clock in the morning, I'm wide awake in bed, when without any warning, it pops into my head. I've had this sense of belonging since I was just a kid. I'll bend my soul while you're snoring, confessing all of the crimes I've committed. It's 3 o'clock in the morning, I'm wide awake in bed, when without any warning, it pops into my head. I've had this sense of belonging since I was just a kid. I bend my soul while you're snoring, confessing all of the crimes I've committed. The crimes I've committed. The crimes I've committed.
Remember, like the very first song you ever wrote. Where were you? What was that experience for you?
Yeah, I was, the first song I wrote by myself, I guess I should say, meaning the words and the music. I was listening to a Tom Waits album,
Okay.
and he had a song, Everything is Green, or something like All the World is Green, I think it is, but he had a line in there that said, she turned kings into beggars and beggars into kings. And I was listening to that, and being an arrogant son of a bitch, I thought I could do better with that line. I thought it was lazy. So I came up with the line, she turned kings into beggars and the righteous into thieves. So then I started writing these lyrics for that, or a poem. At the time I was thinking it was a poem. And then the next morning I got up and I was picked up my guitar, which I was learning, and played this chord progression I'd been playing with, and it just happened that the words matched. So I was writing this song about, it was called She Couldn't Be With Me. And I was just talking about how great she was, but she couldn't be with me, and I was trying to figure out where to go with it, and came up with the idea that she just dies. That at first it seems like, it kind of led you to think that he wants her, but she can't be with him.
Yeah.
But then you turn out that, in fact, he was with her, but she couldn't be with him, as it were. It's like a tragic thing. So I posted that, and I got a lot of really positive response, like, wow, that's really good, and I was like, well, okay. So I just started writing after that, and,
That's cool.
And the cool thing is when I was writing poetry, I could never, I always wrote like really flowery words and really like very intellectually good poetry,
Yeah.
but I could never make you kind of like go, oh, and that's what I kind of focused on when I first started writing
Okay.
songs, was trying to get that emotion. And
Yeah.
I wrote a song, and I remember playing it, and I saw some young lady with a tear in her eye. And, finally, it's like, so. Anyway, so.
It's really cool. I know a lot of people, it's like there's almost a divide. At least I think, because the way I write is oftentimes I experience this, and there's a lot of people that are good at taking a story that never happened and they just put it into words and make it a song. So I think that's a nice, blend of both of them.
It really is. A lot of times I'll take like an idea I'll hear in another song, just one line, and turn it into something different. There was some pop song, and I don't know who did it, but it's very like 2010s pop music. And there was a line in it that said, "You were the upside of my downward spiral." I said, "Upside of a downward spiral." So I ended up writing this whole song about this heartbreak. It's called "Comfort in the Dark," but it starts off, "She was the upside to my downward spiral, but now she's gone, and I've fallen so hard, you know, or I'm still falling," something like that. But so, and that was like an experience I didn't have. But
Yeah.
whenever people hear it, they think I'm really angry and bitter about somebody. But
Well, you did your job then.
yes, thank
Isn't
you.
that poetry somewhere else? You said now.
Yeah, it's in a train. Yeah, I started writing poetry, and after the first year, I buried all my poetry in a train engine, so that
It's
no
so
one would
extreme.
ever see it again. Well, it was there. We drank at the train engine a lot,
Okay.
and you'd think that would be something you do when you're drunk, right? I'm gonna bury my poetry in here. It sucks. You know, it's one of those things. But excuse me. I hope that wasn't too loud. But
No.
yeah, I mean, no, I mean, I don't know. I think everybody's influenced me one way, for good and bad. I mean, just, you know,
Yeah.
we're all just like, you know, meteors crashing into each other and gouging out features on our surface, you know, and our psyche, you know. But yeah, I mean, you know, obviously my mom and my stepdad taught me to come home, bring home your check, and stay there. Don't go out boozing and whoring and gambling, kids. And you know, I mean, stuff like
I
that.
also want
you
to
know.
ask you almost the same question. I mean, I don't know if you've like written songs or if you just play bass.
I've played around with a little bit of writing and found that it's not really my strength.
Okay.
And I've focused on being a support guy my whole career, a
Yeah.
sideman,
Okay.
which is how I got associated with Tom. I was approached by his producer on his first record and asked if I would be interested in these songs. And
Yeah.
once I heard the songs, it was like, these are dark. I like them.
Yep. I thought that same thing.
And so I jumped in there. But that's been my focus my whole career, is being a support guy. I'm kind of like, I think of bass players as kind of like the offensive linemen of football. You only hear about them if they're doing a really great job
Yeah.
or a really bad job. My job is to make sure that he shines, right? It's like in football, if you
Yeah.
throw a good block, the running back gains 100 yards. So I'm like the guy who throws the good block so he
There
can
you go.
run 100 yards.
And he does.
Yeah, I
And
can
he
tell.
does.
I can tell.
Absolutely, no doubt about it.
It was really refreshing to hear some like really solid bass lines today.
I
was
try to
enjoying
keep
that.
it simple and
Yeah.
stay out of the way. And I base a lot of what I play on the melody lines.
Yeah, I think you did a good job.
The cadence of the melody line as much as the actual melody itself. Again, it's all about supporting the
Yeah.
song
There you
for me.
Is
I
there?
got very lucky on that project. And through the entire thing, considering that I'm really not a musician, and there are musicians who are just so accomplished and with so much experience and stuff, and I'm been welcomed by them, you know, like I couldn't even believe, you know.
Well,
Yeah.
You know.
we need songs to play, and that's where you come in.
Well, that's
So,
fantastic, but it's really,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm always, you know, it's like when you're a smart person who works with geniuses, you feel stupid, and that's how I feel all the time, and it's a good thing, you know, it's a really good thing. So
It's cool.
yeah, thanks.
Is there like do you have like a magical moment that you remember like picking up bass and knowing that that's something that's gonna stick with you?
So I started playing bass in high school. The band I was in joined up with two other bands, and we had this
Okay.
kind of big super group, right?
It's cool.
With too many people. And I was playing guitar at the time. So we decided to let a few people go and pare it down, and the bass player was one of the guys who left. So it was between myself and another guitar player
Classic.
who was a much better guitar player than I was. So I said, I'll play bass. Of course, I had, you know, this is the 60s. So McCartney was everywhere.
Oh yeah.
So between McCartney and Duck Dunn and guys like Jack Cassidy and Jack Bruce,
Yeah.
and I just started listening to what they were doing, and it appealed to me, and I've just kind of stayed there ever since.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You did a really
there
good
wasn't
job
like a
with that.
magic moment, so to speak, other than the more I did it and the more I paid attention to what bass players were doing, the more
Yeah.
appealing it was to me.
Well, that's really cool.
Yeah.
You guys have a great sound together. It sounded very solid, so.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
What is the most memorable experience that you've had at a show, whether it's been good or bad or weird or anything?
Funny, strange, ugly.
A band I was playing with around 1980 opened for Heart at the
Oh,
Riverfront
wow.
Coliseum.
That's cool.
And the guitar player in the band at the time was a real dog. And so we're backstage after our set, and there were some attractive young ladies waiting in the hallway, and he approached them, of course, as he always did, and their reply was, "I'm sorry, we're waiting for Howard." Howard was the lead guitar player for Heart at the time. So that became his pickup line for months afterwards. "Excuse me, are you waiting for Howard?" And of course they would be like, "Howard who?" Yeah, so that was kind of his entree. But this band that I was with at that time, there were many of those experiences. We had, for example, we had the club we played most of the time. One of the biggest drug dealers in town was the owner of the club.
Oh my gosh.
And his rival, coke dealer, wanted to invest in our band. So there was an instant rivalry between those two. So we were at a party with our manager on a Sunday afternoon and got a call from the club owner, said, "If you show up at my club Friday night, I'm going to kill all of you." And we're like, what do we do now? So our manager said, "Well, just show up and play. It'll be okay." So we did. We showed up and played. And you could see the guys around the club who were there with the rivals. And about 1 o'clock in the morning, the club owner bursts in. Are you familiar with George Jefferson? The character George, from the Jeffersons, right? This guy was like George Jefferson on speed. I mean, he was just frenetic. So he bursts into the club, goes straight to the back room. We finished our set, go on a break. We go in the back room. The two of them were sitting across a table with a giant rock of cocaine. Each of them had their guy standing behind them. They were
my gosh.
negotiating over our future, basically. And we just walked in and, "Oh, excuse me, we'll be right back," and walked right back out again. It ended peacefully. Nobody was killed in the
That's good.
process,
That's always good.
which is a real nice thing. And
Yeah.
Bonus.
yeah, right. Bonus
Really
points
nice.
for that. So that period of my life, there are a lot of those kind of stories,
gosh.
rock and roll
Yeah.
stories. But yeah, so.
Jeez.
I once got a splinter. One, two, three, four. Had lots of money, now I got love. Had a Maserati, but now he's gone. I got me a woman, she come and go as she pleases. I might as well sell my soul and go work for Jesus. Went to the casino, they wouldn't let me play. Bought me a dog, but he ran away. Paid for a hooker, but she laughed at my penis. I might as well sell my soul and go work for Jesus. I might as well sell my soul and go work for Jesus. Went to the banker, I couldn't get a loan. Rang up my mother, she told me don't come home. Where can I go? It doesn't take no
What are some of your influences?
But not just musically.
Not just musically, like
Yeah.
in life, everything you do.
Oh, gee. Well, let's start musically. Obviously, Tom Waits is a big influence. I always say, and I said this
Yeah.
before, that I used to say that if I could be 1/10 as good as Tom Waits, I would be happy. And I've achieved my goal in life. I am 1/10 as good as Tom Waits. But Tom Waits, the Beatles, Johnny Cash is a big influence.
Solid.
I could. It would almost be impossible for me to list everybody who's an
Right.
influence because I literally have like 4,000 records and just I listen to everything you can imagine. But I would have to say that the top are like the Beatles, Tom Waits, Bob Dylan, Johnny Cash. What are your influences?
Well, I think I mentioned some of my musical influences, which are a lot of the guys who played in the 60s, like McCartney and Jack Bruce and Duck Dunn, people like that. In life, honestly, I have to say my parents were my biggest influence. My mother was a Southern belle who married young, but she really was, I think, really influential in my life in teaching me how to be with people, how to
Yeah.
treat people. And a lot of it was that kind of gracious Southern thing.
I saw that you guys are doing really well on Reverb Nation. You've been hitting those charts, like, at least, like, in the top 5, like, pretty much all consecutively, right? Like,
Well, quite a bit
really
lately,
cool.
yeah, it's really nice, and it's funny because we sell a lot of CDs, but we sell them like to Azerbaijan, or we sell them to like the UK, or to Russia, or stuff like that. Like we have fans all over the world. And if we
awesome.
could just get them all into one place, we'd probably have a really great
yeah.
show, But in Cleveland, it's hard to get a gig even sometimes,
get
But
it.
but that's because I'm not very good
Oh,
at
come on.
booking gigs.
Okay, I
Yeah,
thought-
booking. I'm very shy. Believe it or not, I'm extremely shy unless I know you.
Yeah.
Once I kind of know you a little bit, I warm up. But like making that call and saying hello, I just it's
Booking
tough.
gigs is really a tough job.
Yeah, it is.
I
It is.
Dealing with the
absolutely
club
hate it.
owners.
Yeah,
and,
and
it's rough.
and not every single club owner I've ever dealt with has been anything less than a delight and a pure pleasure. I don't want to give that impression, but it can
Right,
be a
right.
challenge at times.
Exactly.
It's
It's
intimidating,
challenging
I
getting that
guess.
first, like, initial step through the door because, you literally have to, like, knock down people's doors and be like, hey, I'm sorry to inconvenience you, and you get a lot of emails, but I would love an opportunity to play. And so it's hard to not annoy people, and you also want to succeed, but your job relies on other people.
You know what the funny thing is? I've gotten really good at calling businesses
Mm-hmm.
and places like that and saying, I know you don't ever have music, but you know what? You should pay me money to come in and do your next party or your next
There you
event
go.
and this and that. And I talk people into it. I've gotten really good at that. But when it comes to traditional venues, I just don't have the language or something. Because I come from the corporate world. For 30 years, I worked for the man. So I know how to,
Right.
do that kind of talk.
Yeah.
Hello there, blah, 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 fiduciary blurt.
Well,
But,
the club thing's really difficult though too because they all want you to bring a crowd,
Yep.
right.
and if you can't bring a crowd, they're not really that interested. So it's getting over that hurdle of building the crowd that will
Right.
follow you around.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to be playing at the same club every week or every.
That's
2
right. That's
weeks
why I need all
either.
those people from Azerbaijan and stuff to
Yeah,
come to
right.
Cleveland, and then I'll draw a crowd from them.
Yeah.
But it's getting there. I have been noticing that the more recently we've been getting a lot stronger crowd reactions than
Yeah,
we've been
definitely.
getting. I think as we're
That's
tightening
awesome.
up as a unit. So we'll just see. How that goes. I have really literally been spending the last 2 years building this business. I call them my matinee shows because I do, like I said, corporate gigs,
Right.
fundraisers, private parties, stuff like that. And it pays really well and it pays really regularly. So I've kind of gotten spoiled by the money. But I've definitely determined that this year is the year I'm going to get my butt out in the evening, start making contacts, start getting out, supporting more shows, seeing what's going on in the scene, and try to make a few friends out
That's
there.
cool.
You know?
Yeah.
So hopefully by the end of this year we'll be doing better with that. So.
Yeah, for sure.
And doing original music makes it twice as difficult.
Right.
Yep.
You know, a good cover band can fill a bar pretty easily.
Yeah, that's someone else's name that you're already like, oh yeah, we can play like
Right.
the Rolling Stones. So it's,
Right, and you know the crowds that go out to hear those bands, they like the band, but they love the songs that they're playing.
Right.
So it's kind of like a human jukebox thing
Yep.
almost, right? But you know, I mean, what you're doing and what you guys are doing, and actually Cleveland has a pretty vibrant original music scene.
I'd agree.
Definitely.
But the difficulty is building that following, you know,
Yeah.
and you got to stay true to yourself. You can't. What can I do to make myself more popular? You got to stay doing what you're doing and keep attracting people a little bit at a time. There's really no secret to it. It's just a very difficult thing to do.
Yeah, I agree.
I think this day job that this business I have has helped me a lot, in the sense that as a person who started in music, writing his own material, I would write for my voice. So I had this like range here, and it was my comfort zone. And so I'd only write for that, and I'd only sing that way. But now I'm having to do like Monkees songs and Neil Diamond
Yeah.
songs and songs that were not written for me, and I have to learn how to sing them. And so I think that it's made my performance, my ability to interact with the crowd, to emote and everything has really improved a lot.
That's
so
great.
I think cover songs are very important. And anyone who's just doing original songs, I would highly advise to start doing cover songs, even if just for yourself, because it can really open up a whole new thing. And that's another thing I want to do, is start doing a lot more cover songs, because there's a lot of songs I want to do that I just love, you know. So and I don't have that many songs to to go for.
Well, I was
Ever
going
and
to
ever.
say,
I've done very similar things. I always sit down and play covers just because it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And
it does help you grow.
It's
though.
well,
That's how I learned how to play.
well,
Exactly.
that's
Right.
how I'm learning how to mix too. I've actually picked Pink Floyd songs, or songs that have interesting production techniques, and I'd actually sit down and record every instrument I could play from it, and try and imitate those techniques. And
Oh
I've
wow,
actually learned
that's
a lot about
interesting.
it.
Yeah.
That's
So
cool.
I've-
That's a very smart way to go about
Absolutely.
it.
It's a lot of
Yeah.
fun too.
Well, one of the problems I have is that I work under the moniker Tom Adams and the Last Resort, because there are
which is
so
me at
many.
this
Well,
point.
at this point, it's him right now. Well, Tom Adams. If you Google Tom Adams or do a YouTube, there's banjo players,
Right, yeah, there's a
flutists,
lot of Tom
jugglers.
Adams
There's
out
all
there.
kinds of
Yeah.
Tom Adams. Worst name ever to have. So I put "And the Last Resort," and so "And the Last Resort" is kind of like Plastic Ono Band, in the sense that whoever's happens to be on hand is the band.
Yeah.
So sometimes he's available. A lot, like he mentioned earlier, that he plays with. Oh God, I'm drawing a blank.
Hillbilly
Idol. And so a lot of times during the summer months he's not available, so I might have to get somebody else to play bass. And then other times he's not playing a lot, and I always love playing with him when I can. So whenever he's available, Same with the drummers, this and that, and it becomes a challenge because I have the CD. But one, I quit smoking after I did the CD, so I sing differently now. And the other thing is, it's a different band. I have harmonica players, which I don't have now on the album, and this and that. So it's tough to give that CD to somebody at a club and say, this is what we sound like, because
Yeah.
it's not.
Because it's not at
It's
all.
not. So that's why that is a good thing,
Yeah.
just because it kind of shows a little like what you can do on your
Yeah,
own. or
exactly.
whatever,
Yeah.
I mean, when we first moved up to Cleveland, it was a little rough because our lineup wasn't solid either. So it was kind of like, all right, well, we'll take a show, and we know we'll be there. We'll do our part.
Yeah.
But yeah, I hope this can help in any way.
Well, I tell you, what I've tried to do is try to make things so that I can be alone. I can play with a drum machine. I can play just with Mike. I can play with a drum,
Yeah.
just a drummer, or Mike and a drummer, or a full band. And I try to write the songs in such a way that
Yeah.
they're kind of singer songwritery,
Yeah.
but also can be made into like a full band thing, like this song that I'm writing called "When a Man Walks Alone," soon available. I wrote it in a way that I could just play it with my acoustic guitar, but I can also hear it with a full band with
Yeah.
fiddles and all kinds of stuff going on. So that's
Songs
another.
hold their own. That's good.
Yeah, you know, just try to make them so that they can be interpreted
Yeah.
in many different ways. You know.
It's awesome.
What is your big message today about your music that you want everybody to know?
Big message about my music. Well, I'll tell you, my big message is just listen to music, buy music, go out and support music. We'd love it if you'd listen, buy, and go out to support our music, but go out and support anybody's music. There is so much great music being made out there, and it is not being paid attention to.
Yes.
Don't go
Exactly.
to the karaoke bar.
Yes.
Go to where they're playing good music, listen to it, and learn something!
Yes.
Thank
We love that because
Excellent.
I'm always telling people there is great music right under your nose.
Unbelievable.